What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new rebuild. Today we are going to be rebuilding Wolverhampton Wanderers over 5 seasons. Once again, if you do enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe and comment below a team you want to see. We essentially poll those teams on the community tab and the community gets the final decision. Again, thank you so much for all the support on the previous video. The United rebuild absolutely smashed it. Let's go over and hopefully attempt to win the Champions League with Wolverhampton. So this is going to be Wolverhampton inside of Football Manager. Of course, a team with a 3.5-star reputation, 4-star training, 4-star youth facilities, and just the 2.5-star youth recruitment. The owners, they absolutely love the club. The bank balance is around about £38 million. The debt is only around about 130 million. So if you compare that to United, we're actually looking quite good right from the start. Now, going to the overview, they have won trophies you may have forgot about. 3 English Premier Division titles, 4 FA Cups, 4 Sky Bet Championships, 2 Carabao Cups, 4 English Community Shields, and some other trophies in there as well. They're actually a team with a fair bit of history. Now, the one thing I'm going to try and add to this sort of roster of trophies is, of course, another Premier Division title, but more importantly, a form of European trophy. Now, I'm not going to be too confident and arrogant and say we can win the Champions League, because that is going to be some ask, but I am going to give it a go. If not, a Europa League would be absolutely more than welcome at this team. Of course, some of our key players we're looking at right now is going to be Pablo Sarabia, or Sarabia, however you decide to say that. I will say he is 32, but for a season or two, he will be our best player. He is a very good player who hopefully can get us over the line and get us to at least a European competition. At least. He's probably got 2 years tops, so we'll see what can happen, and hopefully we can do well with him. Now, of course, the other player, the captain, Max Kilman, is a player who is very 50-50 for me on Football Manager. He's either really good or he completely flops, so I am going to give him a shot. But if he's not performing, I will move him on. I'm not going to have him at the club purely because of, you know, the stature of who he is. He can be moved on, so that is completely up to him. Now, in terms of tactics, we are going to be using my Emery Villa tactic. Once again, if you're interested in this rebuild file, all the tactics and these wonderful perks, you can come on over and join the Patreon. A ton of you did from the United rebuild. I've been talking to you pretty much all day yesterday about your versions of the saves. I absolutely love it. So do come on over and click the link in the description. But what I will say is, this does change as we go throughout the video, because obviously Emery's Villa can be a little bit more attacking than what we can, so that's just a little heads up. But what I will say is, looking at some of the players we have in this team, we aren't all negative. The likes of the midfield, we've got João Gomez, who is an absolute baller in midfield. We've got Andre, again, another player who I've signed countless times in previous rebuilds, so I can't really turn my nose up at him. Wing backs, I'm going to say, we're actually somewhat secure. We've got Nori, who is a left back who I definitely have signed in a fairly recent rebuild, who is not necessarily the best left back in the world, but is very well balanced and of course gets the job done. Semedo, again, not the best in real life, but in the game you can't get much better. 16 acceleration, 16 pace, 14 tackling, good stamina, good work rate, everything you would want from a right back. The only thing that's not going for him is the fact he's 30 years of age. Centre backs, I will say again, is not awful. Totti is a very good centre back, not the quickest necessarily, but very solid when it comes to putting in a challenge. And we've also got the likes of Kuna, a player who I've completely skipped over, a fantastic attacking midfielder or striker if needed, and a player who once again I've signed a lot in these rebuilds. A decent goalkeeper. You've of course got the likes of I always butcher, so I'm going to say Sasa up front, a very good player, very slow, but if given the service, he can score a goal or two. You've also got the likes of Sam Johnston, you've got Guedes on the bench, you've got Hwang Hee-chan, you've got Craig Dawson, which is, don't know why I've mentioned that, Traore, obviously in midfield, Lamina, Tommy Doyle, Luke Cundle. You've got good players on here, and of course, we've got Strand Larson as well, up front, who I don't really know how he's going to do. He's only on loan, but looking at this team, and factoring in we are only playing in 3 competitions, no European competition of course, I would like to say 11th place finish I think is quite harsh. I think we can finish inside the top 8. That's what I'm going to aim for in the first season. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to get right into it and see what we can do, because this first season is going to set the tempo. Let's get into it. Be sure to leave a like. Well, I was right. We are going to finish in the top 8. In fact, actually gaining some form of European football in the first season, which just shows how good the tactic is, because I'm not being funny, the team is nowhere near that quality. I would also say we have got a couple of players actually featuring in the stats. Sarabia coming in with 17 assists, so the top assister out of anybody in the Premier League, and the target man up front scoring 23 goals, only 6 behind Erling Haaland, so a very good season out of him, and of course the attacking midfield player. Now unfortunately, The rest of the competitions, they weren't too pretty. The FA Cup, we are going to fall to Chelsea in that quarter-final, unfortunately in 3-1 fashion. And in the Carabao Cup, another quarter-final exit against Manchester United, where, to be fair, we only lose on penalties, so that's not a bad exit at all in my opinion. But realistically, Season 1 with Wolves, considering where they are in real life at the time of recording, sat on 1 point. I think this is a very, very strong season. But once again, unless we've got a big budget, this season might have come a little bit too quickly. So first, we'll look at the budget. That is decent. 58 million with Wolves is a lot of money. 62 million into Season 2, I would take any day. The second thing we've got to check is contracts. Now, I like to do this because we can understand sort of how muddled actually are we. Anything up to 2025 is an issue, so that is going to be around about this position here. So he needs a contract, he does. He could go, but ideally we keep him for another year. How good have the loanees been? Borje, I do not believe he's played much. I probably won't look to extend that or keep him at the club. And Larson, that's probably the big one. 21 appearances, 4 goals, 2 assists. Depending on how much he costs, I mean, I wouldn't pay anything over sort of 4 or 5 million. He's not enjoying his loan spell anyway, so he can go. It's not exactly a big loss anyway. Sarabia, I hope I can keep for another season. Dawson, it's probably time for him to go, to be fair. So it's not the most stressful time at the club. A lot of these players are going to be leaving anyway. There's only around about 3, if not 4 players that do need brand new contracts. But we have got the money to do so. So as long as they want it, they're more than welcome to stay. But of course, going over and looking at our best 11, we can see who got the goals, who didn't. You can see right now 10 assists from Semedo. You've got 8 Nori there with 6. You've got 5 coming in for Andre. Gomez with 7. 13 for Kuna and 12 goals as well. 15 for Luke Kundal, which is a very good sight to see. 18 and 17 for Pablo Sarabia. And when it comes to Larson, of course you can see him there with the 7 goals. But more importantly, let's get the real player up front, which is going to be this man here, Big Sasa. It is Sasa, isn't it? It is Sasa. Big Sasa coming in with 28 goals. Now that is a striker I can get behind. 12 also for a player out on loan in Fabio Silva, which, to be fair, we are going to get him back. So hopefully he could come back and find some form for us as well. He's a player who in last Football Manager was either up here or the way down here. I've not used him this year, so it's going to be interesting. But overall, I look at this team and let's just get a couple of things straight. This is not a team that can do anything really in the European competition. We're not going to win Europa League. Definitely not the Champions League if we got there. This is a team who I think is definitely overachieving getting into those competitions, but we have got 62 million to go and spend and improve. So realistically, I think the only people that are guaranteed some sort of safety in this system is going to be Sasa up front for now. You've got Sarabia, you've got Kuna, Kundal as well potentially. The front 4 are actually somewhat guaranteed to stay and not be replaced. When it comes to the back line, despite having decent seasons, you could argue, apart from maybe 8 Nori, everyone could do with an upgrade, and Semedo is purely based off his age. So let's get into the second season and see exactly who we can pick up. So unfortunately, this is the downside of having a good first season, because Big Pablo is going to go to Juventus on the free, where he goes and actually doesn't even have a good season. I see why he went for the bigger competition, Champions League football, but it's completely ruined his last few years of football. So do you know what? Goodbye to you. We've attempted to replace him with someone not as good at the moment, but is going to be playing for us, hopefully, for the entire rebuild. Pablo Torre is going to come in from Barcelona for 8.2 million, so a very cheap price, but he does actually play almost every game, scores 10 goals, 6 assists. It's a good entry season. No, it's not Sariba's level, but at the end of the day, he is a very good player for the future. We're also going to bring in another midfield player, this time on the free, in Albert Sambi Lakonga, coming in on the free from Sevilla, where he plays again almost every game, scores 2 goals, picks up 5 assists, and I will say, in terms of a free option, you can't really go wrong. He's valued upwards of £37 million, and he's just a very well-balanced player, also incredibly versatile, and still only 26, so on the free, you sort of have to pick him up if you're a Wolves team. Other player on the free and another former Arsenal man is going to be Nuno Tavares, coming in from the likes of Lazio, where he does play not almost every game, but 34 games, 1 goal, 4 assists, and drops a 7.29 average rating. And what I will say with him is he was brought in for backup, but clearly he's getting a lot of game time. He's actually very good. He's incredibly quick. His tackling could do with a little bit of work, but it's okay. He'll get the job done. He's got decent crossing, which you can see is actually on the up as well. And what I like about this guy is he can also cover right back, so a free transfer again, not on too much per week. and he's Portuguese. It's the Wolves way. Another Portuguese man is going to be Thomas Araujo, the centre-back coming in from Benfica for 90 million, where he does come in, play a ton of games, and drops a 6.87. So I will say, not the best in terms of average rating, but it is his first season in the Premier League. He still is only 24, and hopefully he can improve as time goes on. Pick up Bella Kotchap. Now, he did go right back on loan, back to Southampton, because he wasn't going to get game time for us in this season, and as you can see right now, they actually don't even decide to play him. They don't play him in a single game, which I think is a little bit scummy, to be honest. So we've got to try and recover him now, because they wanted the loan back. I was like, sweet, they'll get some more time out of him, they'll improve him, they'll develop him. Nah, they won't play him at all. So Bella Kotchap is now going to be one of our players, but unfortunately, they've sort of done him over in his last season. Now all the way down to a 2.5-star current ability, which is not what I paid the money for. But as you can see, the 3 players leaving, well, 2 players leaving, Pablo and of course Temple right there. Bella Kotchap went to Southampton again, didn't play a single minute. But I do honestly think with these 5 signings, we'll say 4 because obviously he didn't play for us this season, these 4 signings, I do think we've definitely improved. Obviously, losing Pablo's a big loss, but let's just go into season 2 and hopefully the likes of Olakonga, Nuno, and obviously also the likes of Pablo Torre, those assists, those stats they had, hopefully this resulted in a good league finish. I can't believe what I've seen in the Champions League actually, because we start off in the round of 16 where we are going to come out and actually do very well over Tottenham in the first leg we did. In the second leg, let's just say it was a little bit closer. We do win 4-3 and get all the way in to the quarterfinals. We then face up against AS Roma and beat them 4-2 over 2 legs. Now I will say, so far we have been getting the easier fixtures compared to the other teams. In the way to the semi-finals against PSG, where we do win 4-2, which puts us in the final against Barcelona. We're in the final, and we are going to go 1-0 up there with a goal very early on. Another goal comes in here in the 45th minute, so we are leading at this point the Champions League final with Wolves in Season 2 in 47 minutes. We are then going to go again with Aït-Nouri down the left-hand side, who's going to look for a ball in the box, and he gets it, and Fabio Silva, the man who I said I was excited to get back, is going to make us 3-0 up in the Champions League final, by the way. They are going to get a goal there with Big Victor to make it 3-1, and unfortunately, this is where things appear to take a bit of a turn, with Koundé into Gavi, and again, it is going to be, I believe, Victor again who gets the goal. So at this point, of course, they were getting back into the game, but we then score again, and we are firing on all cylinders. And to wrap it up in what is going to be 5-2 fashion against Barcelona, we're Champions League winners. We're going to win the FA Cup over Liverpool 2-1. What is going on? And we're going to secure a top 4 finish anyway, but we won the Champions League, so it really doesn't matter. Now, what I will say is, this whole sort of story is absolutely mental to me, because I was not expecting to win the Champions League with Wolves potentially ever in this rebuild, but we've got a little bit lucky with a couple of the legs who we've matched, but we still had to beat who was in front of us. We've done a great job and we have won that Champions League, but more importantly, focus on the Premier League, a top 4 finish. Luke Kundle comes in with 21 goals. Now, this is a player who obviously is playing in that sort of attacking midfield area. He is playing at the best of his ability, and I'm going to offer him a contract. Despite him being here till 2029, there is a release clause in there, and I'm scared someone's going to pop it. So he is going to get a new contract, and he is going to get a big wage increase. Semedo and Aït-Nouri, when your fullbacks are the top assisters, you know you're going to do well in the Premier League, therefore that's why we have. And also Kuna comes in 3rd place when it comes to the best average rating. Now overall, that is a remarkable season. The only disappointment is probably the Carabao Cup against Aston Villa, but I feel like you've got to be pretty harsh as a manager to criticise not doing well in one cup when you've won the Champions League with Wolves. Now, we did lose 3-1, so it is a bit of a thumping, but all I can think about is what we've done to Barcelona. So for me, I really do not care about that competition. That's a great season, and I would imagine resulting in some pretty big money. There you go, £112 million to go and spend with a team that has just won the Champions League. Now, I've got to go over and actually look at some of these stats. So, you've got Silva coming in with 16 goals, 15 for Pablo Torre, Luke Kundle carrying the team in that shadow striker role, 21 for Kuna, 11 for João Gomez, assist-wise 28 for Semedo, 24 for Aït-Nouri, you've got 11 for Kuna, 12 for Pablo Torre. Let's not forget about Big Sasa up front as well, coming in with 32 goals, which is a very big contribution. 9 assists for Sambi Lokonga, 7 for Nuno Tavares as well. Other than that, nothing else to really talk about on the bench. But what I will say is, one little heads up, Bella Kotchap did have another season out on loan, and again, we're not seeing anything too much from him, so it's a little bit disappointing, but it is what it is. We have just won, I've got to keep saying it, we've won the Champions League in Season 2. It's absolutely mind-blowing, but I guess with the £112 million we've got, we're going to focus on extending some contracts. Luke Cundle, for example, needs a new contract to eliminate that release clause, and I'm just going to give contracts to pretty much his starting 11, because I'm not being funny, they've just done what they've done. So we'll go and do that, we'll go and spend big, and hopefully we'll push for the Premier League. How am I saying this in Season 2? Now, you might think, Josh, he had a decent season. Why are you selling him? Well, Man City come in and offer you a total of 36 million for Fabio Silva. Now, we've got to understand, yes, he scored a goal in a very big competition. He really did. But he only scored 8 goals overall in the league. It's not a massive loss. And when you're getting offered 36 million, you have to sell him. He won't even get played at Man City. I don't know why he wanted to go, but I guess he likes sky blue. And the only other real noticeable loss is going to be Yerson Mosquera, who wasn't really playing too much anyway. He is going to go to HSV, obviously over in the Bundesliga, for 4.3 million, where he does play a lot of games and drops a fairly average rating, to be fair. He's had a couple of years at Wolves now, never really did stand out. So goodbye to him. Our first signing on the free is going to be none other than Donny Marlon. Now, first thing, let's just notice, he's valued between 57 and 71 million. So even if this guy doesn't do well, we can cash in and seriously get some money for him. Now, looking at him in the league, he has come in and actually done very well. 18 goals and 4 assists, which I will take any day. He's played a lot of games though, so I imagine he's pushing everyone the rest out of the team, which I don't mind if he is scoring the goals. It's a little bit harsh on the previous strikers, but when a player like this comes on the market, you've almost got to take him. He's rapid, he can put the ball in the back of the net, and he has played for some pretty big teams. We're also going to strengthen up a centre-back. We've lost one, we've replaced him with a better one. That is going to be Cassano, coming in from Bayer Leverkusen for £29 million, where he comes in, he plays a load of games, and again, he scores 3 goals, which I'll take, but the average rating isn't too pretty, so hopefully he does improve over time. He's a very good centre-back. Again, he offers a good little bit of pace, good tackling, good strength, good work rate, good determination, a little bit of a lack of aggression for a centre-back, but it's not always a bad thing, so welcome in to Cassano. We spent big on a goalkeeper to secure him. He looks a little bit like Fogden, I've just figured out. We have gone and secured a goalkeeper, and you do spend big, especially when you pay for an English goalkeeper. 39 million, he comes in and plays 33 appearances and keeps 15 clean sheets, so roughly just over half the games obviously keeping clean sheets, which we will take, and he appears to have done quite well, although a couple of the attributes are on the way down, so let's just quickly reverse that and get them back up the top. And lastly, a player that seems to get, I'll say it, disrespected in the Premier League is going to be Emil Smith-Rowe, a player who of course was Arsenal's star boy for many years. Injuries just never really got him going. He goes to Fulham, where he enjoys a couple of okay seasons. For us, he comes in and lights up the Premier League. 14 goals, 5 assists, drops above a 7 rating for 37 million. I maybe did overpay again, but that is what I like to call the English tax. He is also a model citizen. He is still only 26, despite feeling like he's had about 20 years at Arsenal. This guy has still got a lot to offer. If you look at his attributes, he's quick, he's got good technique, he's got good passing, he's got good dribbling, his finishing's okay, good off the ball work, good vision. He's actually a really good player, and we paid, what, 37? He's valued now upwards of 70. So with those players sold and with those players brought in, I would say overall, once again, we have improved the team going into what is going to be the 3rd season. It's going to be incredibly ambitious to ask for back-to-back Champions Leagues, but I would like to see us at least get to the semi-finals, show that we are now a consistent Champions League team, or did we fluke it? Let me know what you think in the comments. Let's go and have a little look. One thing that is good, we are now getting seriously competitive in the Premier League, 1 point behind Arsenal, and what I will say is we have not got no clear top goal scorer now, because Kuna is going to be joint second with Erling Haaland, who, by the way, Man City also have Vlahovic as well as a partner. What formation are they playing? Let's go and have a little look at this team. So they've got no coach, which is interesting, and they are playing a narrow system, and that team is an absolute joke. That is insanity. What a team that is. But anyway, back to the league table. A 2nd place finish. Pablo Torre, the 2nd most assists in the league. Kuna, the 2nd best average rating, behind Big Duzan as well. James Trafford comes in and actually picks up the 2nd place when it comes to the clean sheets. So overall, a lot of seconds coming in, probably where we deserve to finish in the league. Although I will say, Arsenal are going to be your favourites. And apart from Martinelli, I suppose actually, yeah, they've got a fair few players in here as well. It's a very close season between Man City, Wolves and Arsenal. So overall, we're now in a title race. I can't really complain. So we did play in the Super Cup against Real Sociedad, and we got off to a great start here with Donny Marlon, showing what he can do inside of 3 minutes, and it doesn't stop there. Kusanu is going to find Semedo down the right-hand side, back into the box, and Donny Marlon gets 2 in 15 minutes. Sambi down the left-hand side wins it back from Zubamendi into Andre, who is going to make it 3 in 20 minutes. It's getting a little bit worrying now for any Real Sociedad fans. 40 seconds after, Donny Marlon goes through again and makes it 4-0 from a great pass from Smith Rowe. In the second half, a little set piece turns into a bit of a scrap. Donny Marlon gets his hat-trick in 54 minutes, and one last goal is going to come in with Semedo, who goes alone and wraps it up. Fortunately, the Community Shield we're not going to talk about because City went on a rampage. The Champions League, we're not even going to make the final, but to be fair, we do make the semi-final where PSG, well, they absolutely smoke us. But I did want to get to that stage. We got there, but we got absolutely blitzed. For the rest of the competitions, you're going to have to look back to the 4th round to actually see what we've done. Now, that is the real disappointment of this season, in my opinion. A 4th round exit in the FA Cup. You can see here, it's very early on, a 4-3 loss to Leeds. We should not be losing to Leeds now at all. The Carabao Cup as well, where actually was that we just went out in the 4th round again by West Ham. That is going to be a 2-0 defeat. Again, very disappointing, but what I will say is, a 2nd place finish in the Premier League, now a title contending team, has got to be said. We've won a trophy we never did win before. It's not all negatives, but I will say, from winning the Champions League, it's never going to be a nice season afterwards when you don't do it. So it's an okay 3rd season. The real positive I'm taking isn't even the Super Cup. It's the fact that we are now actually got a chance of winning this Premier League with a few more signings. Now, speaking of signings, again, we've got above 100 million, 103 million pounds to go and spend to take into the 4th transfer window, which again is a lot of money for Wolves to be given us, and I do appreciate that highly because we need the money, we need the investment. Now, what I will say is, looking at our best 11, I do think Marlon has come in and he's put his foot down. 28 goals for him in the season, 9 coming in for Pablo Torre, 22 for Smith Rowe, Kuna with 28, assist-wise 11 for Semedo, 8 for 8 Nori. I want a little bit more from him. I might actually make them a little bit more attacking, to be honest with you. 12 for Kuna, Smith Rowe with 16, 18 for Pablo Torre. Other than that, I will say the bench is actually quite quiet. Sambi Lokonga, 5 and 9. Sasa, 3 and 1. Araujo from centre-back, 3 and 1 as well. 7 goals for Luke Kundle, who of course plays here, but when you've got Smith Rowe doing what he's doing, he's going to come in and pretty much take over. I do think what we've got now is we have got a team of a clear first 11 and a decent bench, but I think you can sit here and a very fair argument would be our backup players are nowhere near as good as our first team, which is always an issue because not only do you want good players for rotation, but also competition does help. So we're going to try and sign some players that are somewhat similar to our first 11 and they can sort of battle out for position, because that way everyone's going to want to try and play well. So let's get into the 4th transfer window, see what we can do. Of course, the main aim now, we've ticked off the Champions League, is going to be the Premier League. Yes, an English Cup would be nice, but obviously the Premier League is where we're setting our goals to. Decided to sell Jose Sarr. He is a goalkeeper now who is 35 years of age. He has gone for 120k to the Qatar League. He's played a fair few seasons for us in the Prem, but of course he's not our first team goalkeeper anymore, and it made sense to almost get 10 million. Further back up the Portuguese theme and to bring in another attacking midfield player similar to Pablo Sarabia we had for one season, Pedro Goncalves is going to come in from Sporting, who has played a ton of football there. He is coming for us and absolutely cooked. Now, when this guy becomes available, even on a paid transfer, you get him, but on the free, I did not batter an eyelid. He's on a lot of money per week, but look at the value of him. If we ever wanted to sell him in the next 3 or 4 years, we could easily get 60 million. At the moment, you could probably get 80, but this guy is an absolute baller, and once again, versatility is a big thing. The centre-back I will always pick up if I need one on the free is going to be Roger Ibanez. I pick him up because if you just look at his attributes, he doesn't really have many weaknesses for a centre-back. I mean, he's got good passing, good tackling, good heading, good aggression, good anticipation, he's reasonably quick. Yes, he is 29, but he cost me literally nothing. He did come in, to be fair, and dropped below a 7, so maybe didn't have the best season, but I know this guy can be very composed, and on the free, you've got to pick him up. And similar to Goncalves, you can sell him for upwards of 80 million. Speaking of 80 million, not quite 80 million, but a player that cost me 69 million pounds, he does come in and takes the Premier League by storm, considering the position he's playing in. Carlos Baleba is going to come in from Brighton for a big chunk of change, but just look at him. His attributes are absolutely remarkable. A leading Premier Division player at the age of 24, and he is just an absolute powerhouse. We paid a total of 69 million. He's had one season with us, and he's valued at upwards of 120 million basically. Now, the players we've brought in here can potentially win you a Premier League. I mean, this was from the last page. Obviously, we lost Jose Sarr. That's not an issue. He can win a Premier League. Roger Ibanez can, but he didn't have a great season, and Carlos Baleba can win you one, so I'm honestly confident we might have done it. It depends on the drop-off though. I mean, because sometimes you get to a point and then your players just start falling off. I'm hoping with these 3 new players, we've done something. We have done it. We are going to be Premier League winners inside of Season 4, finally getting it done. And to be fair, not just getting it done, nearly going invincible. Only 2 losses there against Man City and Tottenham, both by 1-goal deficits as well. And clearly the addition of our new players has had an effect. Now, I will say, you can actually see the players that stood out for us. It is going to be Kuna, who has been at the club for ages. Nuno Tavares, been at the club now for a while. Smith Rowe, Semedo again in the assists. Not a single goalkeeper of ours anywhere near the most clean sheets, so clearly not the best defensively, but I will say we have got the job done, and that is absolutely incredible to see. And the fact we've done it by 13 points, we might now be the team to beat. Unfortunately, we've taken a big hit in the Champions League, not in the semi-finals, but knocked out now in the quarter-finals against Arsenal, where it is not going to be a humiliating defeat, but still, going from winning it to the semis, now to the quarters, are we now going to go out in the round of 16? We seem to be taking a step back every single season, which makes me think we may have fluked that one year, but the rest of it, again, the Carabao Cup is an improvement in terms of stages, but getting knocked out in the semi-finals against Bournemouth, where we actually lose 4-3 on aggregate, and I mean, that is just disappointing because they actually go on to win it over Liverpool's. And as for the FA Cup, we are going to be exiting inside of that 3rd round as well against Southampton. And as you can see in this one, it is going to be a defeat by 2 goals. So it's not good at all. That is a real big disappointment. And that actually, apart from the Premier League, is not a good season. But because we have finally won that Premier League, it sort of sugarcoats the rest of the bad season. Now, we have got a budget of 98 million, more than that actually, 131 million to take into the last season. And realistically, looking at our team, the main aim now is to attempt to win back-to-back Premier League titles, and the players we've got now, this sort of 3 here, we've got the likes of 25 goals for Kuna, 24 for Goncalves, Smith Rowe with 23, 14, 10 and 8 assists. These 3 players here are doing the bulk load of work. Now, strikers, Donny Marlon only scores 2 goals, and Sasa is only going to score 11. So we've actually got a bit of a goal drought when it comes to strikers, so we might actually spend on bringing in a secure bagsman, because without these 3 players here, we aren't scoring goals, which is a bit of an issue. Assist-wise, we've got Semedo with 16 and 8 Nori with 11, so they're doing their job. Carlos and Baleba also enjoyed a great season, but what I will say is the striker is a bit of a worry, so we're going to have a little look. I have changed the tactic a little bit as well, so we are actually now playing with that higher line. We've also got both of the wing-backs overlapping, running at defence as well. So we are quite attacking now going into the last season, but we might have to spend big on a striker. In fact, let's go and do it. Season 5. Probably the only flop of this whole video is going to be Burak Kotchap. He comes in and he does not actually play a single game. In fact, I don't even know what happened to him. He come back from loan destroyed from Southampton. We've lost 13 million. It's not pretty. He's now going to be a Villarreal player. I don't know what happened. Next player to leave is going to be João Gomez. Now, he was a great player for us, but unfortunately, last year he did fall off a little bit, only playing 14 games. He's now going to be in the Saudi League, where he does play a lot of games and drops a good rating, but it is the Saudi League. He should shine. We are, however, going to replace him with a free signing in Lewis Ferguson. We do love a freebie signing. He comes in from Bologna, where he plays every single game and drops close to a 7 match rating. So do you know what? It's a great replacement. Unfortunately, towards the sort of end of that season, I imagine something's happened, because he is always on a downward spiral. And apart from the crossing, dribbling, stamina, strength, actually he's doing okay. What am I saying? He's doing okay. We also are going to pick up another free signing in Kieran Tierney. Now, I never actually knew this about Tierney, but he can play anywhere across the back line, which is comes in handy big time, and he comes in on the free from Celtic, or technically from Arsenal, where he plays 32 games, drops a 7.11, and again, he was not brought in for first team, but clearly he's earned it. Definitely not a free signing is going to be Junior Krupi, coming in from Liverpool, of course previously from Burnley, for 40 million. He has come in and completely taken the storm to everyone, with 24 goals, 4 assists, and drops above a 7 match rating. And this was the player I brought in to try and be that goal scorer in the Premier League, and apparently it has worked. Now, we did have to spend big. He's on a lot of money per week, but his value now is treble of what we paid. We are also going to pick up Oscar Glau, coming in from RB Salzburg for 22 million. He comes in, plays a lot of games, doesn't really do too much, picking up only 3 goals. Wasn't expected to have him in a lot of games, to be honest, but we might have picked up injuries with Smith Rowe, for example, and he may have just been forced to play games. Again, he's still only 25. He's got a few years to redeem himself. That season, though, it's not one to remember. And when you can pick this guy up for anything under 40 million, you've got to do it, and we have. He goes to Man City and doesn't really enjoy a great season. He comes to us there for 29 million, plays almost every game, a few more than what he did at City, 7 goals, and drops a 7.22. So he has had a better season with us than compared to Man City, and I do genuinely think with these sorts of players we've brought in, Krupi, Inacio, Ferguson, Tierney, Oscar Glau, only losing 2 people there who weren't playing or are on the fall-off, we have definitely improved the team, and I'm hoping this might mean we've got a shot at winning a back-to-back Premier League title. Let's go and have a little look. Well, the Champions League, I can't actually believe what I'm seeing, because I was joking. We went from the final, which we won, to the semi-final, which we lost, to the quarter-final, which we lost, and in the round of 16, we lose to PSG. That was the biggest fluke of a Champions League I've ever seen. It's a very small trophy, but one that we did need. That is going to be the Community Shield against Manchester United. We are going to win 1-0, all the way down to pens. As for the Carabao Cup, we just can't get cooking in this competition. We're going to lose to Birmingham on penalties. Birmingham. And the FA Cup, apparently the game's coded us not to get past anywhere near the 5th round, as we are going to go out against Arsenal 2-1, meaning to make this 2 trophies out of 2, we need to go over and win that Premier League, which we have done. And I will say, it's a lot closer now. Liverpool in 2nd place, Newcastle actually nowhere near us. So Liverpool, the only real team offering competition. Krupi comes in with 24 goals. We are going to have Smith Rowe and Semedo, 2nd and 3rd best performers. Semedo, Goncalves and Smith Rowe as the top assisters. And James Trafford comes in with 18 clean sheets. So finally, we've got a great goalkeeper that is picking up the most amount of clean sheets. We're scoring goals. We've got our bagsman, but overall, as a final season, yes, it's amazing. We've won the Premier League twice, back to back. We have won a Champions League. It would have been nice to do something a little bit more in these sort of competition. So if you are going to pick up the tactic and the rebuild file, your challenge is to win a Premier League, a Champions League, and one of the English Cups in the one season. So a treble winning season. It cannot include the Community Shield. It has to be a Premier League, a Champions League, or either the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup. Let me know if you get it done. I do like to see you attempt the challenges. But looking over the team, we are going to leave you with an absolute powerhouse when it comes to the free block. You've got Kuna, Goncalves, Smith Rowe, Krupi up front. This 4 here is more than capable of winning a Premier League. You've seen that. Champions League, I honestly think the weakness might be the back line, which hopefully you got money to spend. You've got 137 million, so that's where I would spend the money if I was going to carry it on. In fact, I might carry it on off stream, to be honest, or off camera, because I want to try and do that treble. But overall, we have left you with an absolute incredible team, with players contributing highly in terms of goals. And overall, this has been a success. I mean, yes, it's a little bit annoying compared to, you know, the fact of not doing that treble winning season, but we have now won the Champions League. We've got a UEFA Super Cup, 2 more Premier Division titles. And I've actually forgot, I know we won a Community Shield. Did we win an FA Cup or Carabao Cup at all? I'm not sure, but if we didn't, that is the only disappointment of the video. But if you have enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And once again, you can comment below any team you want to see. We'll then take those teams, put them in a voting poll, and that will be the final decider. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.